Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the lab. I am definitely Benny, and I just want to take a second to say thank you to everyone who has been watching the video so far. I can't believe anybody has been watching these in the first place. I didn't really expect anybody to, but I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your days to watch a couple minutes with me. I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm so excited to have you guys here. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode, which is every developer's favorite topic, planning. There is not a single architect, engineer, construction worker, whatever in the world that would build a house or any type of building without first having a plan. And the same should be true of software. Now, how much time you spend on your plan is up to you and the size and complexity of your project. There's no reason to spend 5 hours planning a 100-line console app, but if your final project is going to have hundreds, if not thousands of classes and interfaces and components, it's especially important for you to take a few hours or even a few days if necessary to plan out your project, to get a high-level view of what's going on inside of your code, and get a plan of attack ready for you to execute on. Now, we have to be very careful here to not stray into the waterfall problem, which is where you try to plan everything up front and don't really account for anything changing along the way. We want to be agile, we want to be quick, we want to be nimble, we want to get a lot of our ideas out there, a lot of the features, a lot of the tasks necessary for us to get our work done onto something, but we don't want to spend extra time trying to figure out everything up front. We do want to be agile in that case. So the question you should be asking yourself is, how do I plan? Well, that's a great question, and there really is no one right way to plan. But I like to follow a simple feature task style of planning, just to lay out the work necessary to make it to the end project and be able to understand what I'm trying to accomplish in a very simple and easy manner. So today, let's go through a very quick, very brief demo of how to do this feature task style of planning. Okay, so I have a blank page here on my Notion, and I'm ready to get started with my planning. The first step that I like to do when doing this easy, simple style of planning is lay out all the features that I think I'm going to need for the project. For the Dominion simulator, especially when mocking a real-life model, we can usually just use the steps necessary in doing the model itself to lay out our features. So in the case of playing Dominion, the first thing that we usually need is cards, right? So we need cards. What do we need about cards? Well, we need to be able to express cards inside of our program, right? So how are we going to get those cards, and how are we going to show them or model them in the program? Well, so let's do get cards. Okay, the second thing that we usually do when playing a game of Dominion is we set up the supply. So, set up the supply. And let's put some bullets on these, make them look nice. Okay, third thing that we do is usually get players ready. Oops. And then take turns. And usually when we take turns in Dominion, the first 2 turns are usually just playing treasures, so let's say player can play treasures and buy cards. After that, the logical thing next is player can play actions. I'm going to be very specific here though and say without interaction, so that way we don't have to worry about multiple players being involved. After the player can play actions, usually that's all you need for the game, except for one very specific thing. We also need to add in turn management and end game checking. Once we get that, the game is basically ready to be played. Now you'll notice I said player instead of players, so we'll add that in later, but for now let's just keep it high level. We are going to need AI at some point, and we'll finally need a scoring system. So those are our high level features of this project that we're trying to tackle right now. So now we're going to go back through and we're going to start adding tasks to all of these things. What is the actual work necessary to get this feature across the finish line into the final product? Well, for getting the cards, we're going to need to go grab some data. We're either going to need to get it from an API or from a data file. Well, let's just assume we're going to get it from a data file and go over that. So we're going to need to read from, and I like JSON. We need to come up with some type of representation in the code for the card. So model and implement card. And then finally, we need a way to serve it up, right? So kind of put the whole thing together, if you will. But we'll just assume that's part of the first one, or the second one. Setting up the supply, we need to add all of the base cards, and then we need to add, well, we actually need to select and add all of the kingdom cards. Simple. For getting the players ready, We need to have the players construct the basic deck, shuffle decks, draw 5 cards, and that should be ready to go. And so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of these here because it would take a little bit longer, especially with the last few. I hope this serves as an easy to use and simple way for you to start on your planning for your projects. Now again, it's important to remember that the more complex, the larger your project, the more people working on your project, the more rigor and structure you're going to need in your planning process. But as long as you're planning, as long as you have a certain style of planning that you choose and that you can follow through on, I guarantee you're going to be more organized and you're going to be ready and more efficient in your next project. In the next episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things that I said we were going to talk about in this one, but I wanted to dedicate an entire episode to it, which is the walking skeleton. I hope to see you guys there.